We are now live, so thank you so much. We have DC Fans United, and we have Joe with us as well. It's been a while, but we're back together to talk a
The
very.
boys are back in town. The boys are back in town.
Hey, don't get copyright struck. No singing songs.
No. Don't worry. That's just the one thing. Don't worry. You're not gonna hear me do that again.
You can only sing public domain songs.
Oh, I got
you.
you.
I can't even sing "Happy Birthday." You know, that's not even public domain. I don't think.
Yeah.
Dang, that sucks.
Everything, copyright everything. But
okay,
yes, we're talking something quite controversial. Which, even though now the steam has kind of gone out of it for the most part, we got Comicsgate, Move the Needle, and then DC Comics in general. And the reason I chose these especially Comicsgate and Move the Needle. Comicsgate is one of those things where it's comics. The understand the kind of the somewhat genesis for it in the past year or so was that the quote unquote milkshake photo of the female editors from Marvel, and at the height, there are a lot of people trolling them and them getting block lists and block bots and rightfully so that people are upset about this. The fact that these are people in a creative business who should be going to get more people on board their books, like not limiting the scope of their potential customers, but kneecapping them instead. And guilt by association. You follow this person, like you can follow Trump, and if somebody doesn't like Trump that much, they can put you on block anybody that follows him, which is like billion people, million people, whatever. So like maybe you're just following to see what's going on. It's like just because you have like a show on in the background does not mean you're actually constantly watching it, but you're participating. But my disagreement with I think we kind of started this, was my disagreement with the, not necessarily validity, but the usefulness, the point of having moved the needle.
Yeah.
Because my biggest complaint, like I put this out there, is the move the needle thing, which I apparently the first tweet to actually use that. And as far as because Twitter is kind of weird as far as what searching options. It doesn't allow you to go in and go first tweet to last tweet kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the first comics use of Move the Needle, because people forget this, Move the Needle was not a comics thing. It had gone back years. We're talking 4 or 5 years from everything from female DJs. These female DJs like Move the Needle, as in the audio needle, for the whatever the audio levels.
I got you. Like the vinyls and needles. I got you.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, Smirnoff. Smirnoff had a Move the Needle campaign. People that's the thing. But now if you search Move the Needle, you get the comics thing because it's been hijacked. But the first one to appear, and it may have been, others may have been deleted, or just the one to first appear, was one from February 8th this year. And it was this is recommended to me, Move the Needle. And the thing about it is, the Move the Needle as a concept, it sounds well and good. It's like one of those, hey, it's like, hey, we're making a difference. But when you're picking up, but most of the people I've seen when they do this, and they're not picking up new and exciting books off the, as far as new and exciting, as in nobody would ever heard of.
Yeah, it's mostly the DC books for the most part.
DC or issue number 1s from Image, books that people would pick up anyway. In the process, so you're picking up books you'd pick up anyway and just throwing a hashtag on there. It's no different than New Comic Book Day or NCBD or whatever. It's kind of a feel good move. It's not a and also the end game. What's the end game? It's like, okay, move the needle to where? So it's a perpetual war. It's like, if you want to look at it, it is like fighting. It's like fighting an idea. It's like fighting a war on drugs or a war on terror. Yeah. Eventually, you become the terrorist or you become the drug dealers. Wars end. Wars end. You can't move the needle to what? That's the thing. It's like, how can you gauge victory? This isn't to follow the Reichstag. This isn't, flying the flag over the over the Reichstag and we won, yeah.
Yeah,
The Japanese
the Russian
surrendered.
flag. I remember that.
The
Yeah.
Japanese.
Well, I'm saying like wars. That's like we've dropped Fat Man and Little Boy on DC and Marvel. They've surrendered. We won. It doesn't work that way.
I think it started though kind of as a response to comics creators like Ethan Van Sciver and John Malin and Chuck Dixon and pretty much anyone that was more conservative, not being able to create comics and feel safe doing that. So at least initially, Move the Needle was like to show people had bought those guys' books and were supporting them. I think anyway. You are right though that it shows now. It's just what you've bought essentially and what you like, which I think is still valid to do. It's just trying to. The way I use it mostly is just to give feedback to the companies, like, okay, this is what I bought and this is what I like, and it's just fun to share them anyway. It could be just kind of a feel-good thing too, like you're saying. But I don't think it's doing any harm either, and it doesn't have the negative connotations with a lot of people the way Comicsgate does.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
yeah.
for sure.
So it's kind of a way, for me anyways, to kind of show support for that community without putting my neck on the line, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, I get that because my thing is as far as the conservative creators in comics, which is very, very similar to conservative like actors and everything within, and directors within, like say, the movie industry and TV industry, where are very few and far between. There are strangers in a strange land, pilgrims in the unholy land, as Henry Jones Sr. would say, surrounded by Nazis burning books.
Well, yeah, I think that might have been because of the whole, McCarthyism from the 1950s, 70s. You know how they blacklisted a bunch of creative folks back then?
The thing about this, if you go back and look at that, here's the problem. If you go back and look at that, there were so many, like when they say like the whole blacklist thing, like, McCarthyism, it's so horrible. And I used to be like, oh, it's a horrible idea, da-da-da-da. It was horrible because it's like turning lights on and roaches scattered. That's what happened. They scattered. The roaches were there. The communists were there within the studio system. I mean, actors, directors, there were some of them, like there's a movie called Hail Caesar. It's a Coen Brothers film. And it's a really good film, but it talks about the communists within the studio system. And
but like part of America, right, is being able to hold different political beliefs and not, have that affect your livelihood.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the problem, though. When you have certain people, like you have people that want a fair shake, that's fine. But when you're a card-carrying member of this or that, that's where the problem becomes. When you become like a member of anything, that's why that's why when it comes to organized anything, I consider that a problem. I'm like kind of I'm pro like anything that has like a monopoly. It's like when they have like, well, we're a part of this, and like no. But break it down. Like a smaller community, you can work together. The bigger the community, the bigger the people, the more unwieldy it is. Instead of becoming it's like a rowboat, it becomes a battleship. It's like a hard to turn. If you got to turn away from something. Rowboat, you can easily do it. Battleship, you can't. Mm-hmm. And the bigger the movements and stuff, but with the whole communism things, and there's a lot of comic creators that have that communist kind of overtones. They're very there are a lot of them say, well, they're socially active. They care about, like, they're not really going after for, hey, let's treat everybody. Let's not discriminate against everybody. So no, let's treat this person more fair than this other person. You've had your turn, white man. Now it's this person's turn. And I'm like, first off, it's like, come down to it, like, they're not going to come into my home. They're not going to drag me out in the streets and burn me alive for being white. Not yet, anyways. Hopefully not. If that's the case, then
I never want to see that.
I'll just give me I'll give me some of that fake tan cream stuff and make myself orange. Then they'll not know what to do with me. But in doing so, like, you're dealing with like a lot of these people that they are not in a let's say, right in a correct mindset when it comes to doling out justice or anything like decency, like decency for first and foremost. Like wishing death upon certain people, celebrating death. Even in a jokey manner. That's just like gallows humor is one thing. If you're within a certain, like say you work at the morgue or a paramedic, you're gonna have a gallows mindset. If you don't, you're gonna lose your mind.
Yeah.
Being surrounded by death all the time.
That kind of career.
Exactly. Somebody's got to do it until they build the robots to go out and do it. And that's what's got to happen. But when it comes back to the creators, whether these in the Comics Gate, and that right there, I'm kind of glad to see the wheels have kind of come off of that for the most part. Like people just kind of scattered to the winds. It's like it has lost steam, thankfully, because nothing good was going to come of it. There's no real change. There's no change for the good or for the bad, and mainly for the bad, because the people going around, and for a second, I was like, I'm joking around, hey, this is gonna be fun, whatever, doing the whole, because people are like, we're gonna do the block list of who we should block to, who not to buy it, and that got out in the world, and I looked at it, I was like, man, that was a stupid idea.
I was against the blacklist from the very beginning. You're the one that Yellow Flash and those guys did.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I talked to him. I messaged him at the time, and I was just like, this isn't a good road to go down. It's the people we've been criticizing are doing the same thing. And he got a lot of pushback on that. I think he kind of backed away from that. But it was definitely out there. I know, didn't it? It got pretty big. It got like a freaking like a Bleeding Cool article and stuff.
Oh yeah, it did, I believe.
Well, and that's the thing right there. You're dealing with I'm not saying all people in comics are socially awkward, especially comic customers and fans and everything. They're socially awkward, but a lot of them are. They haven't had to deal with a lot of people in the real world in a confrontational basis. And in doing so, it's like me dealing with, the whole, hey, if somebody, I used to block people in the past, and I stopped blocking a long while back, and then other people kind of jumped on the bandwagon and stopped, I've got nobody on my block list, whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but I'm not I don't sell comics to people. I'm not work for a corporation. I'm not, a self-employed comics creator. Who's a book out through Image or what have you. But when you have these people that do that, and then because they're friends over friends of friends, you follow that person, how dare you? You follow the wrong person, they're bad, they're mean, whatever. And so they throw you on a list, and it's Nazi-like, it's whatever. It's like they wipe you out of existence like the Soviets did. Like they take your photo and they cut you out of the photo, and you no longer existed. And in doing so, it looked really bad when all that stuff was going down, and hard to believe it's only been like 2 months since that kind of cracked off. Like early to mid-July. January. So
is it?
Yes,
is it really gone? Is it really gone away though? I mean,
well, to a degree,
those guys do videos every day.
But that's the thing; they do videos because that's the only way to get views. It's like if you're not. I'll leave it this way: hey, that's what they're going to do. There's nothing I can do to stop it. Whatever. And it's we're going to pull the plug on YouTube to prevent it from happening. People are going to do the thing, but eventually, it's the same thing with back in the day, the people that are doing the anti-SJW videos, right, against like the Gamergate people.
Yeah,
it's the same thing, but in comics, it's a much shallower pond. Yeah, comics have been around a lot longer, but they've never had the reach the games do.
The new thing is Star Wars, the whole SJW Star Wars thing.
Of course.
That's really, a lot of the people in the Comics Gate have really shifted that way.
Well, I mean, they're kind of dancing around it because I was like, when they first started out, the whole first with Force Awakens and everything, they kind of started dancing around that a little bit, and then they kind of went full tilt into it. Like, now that kind of the steam's going out of, the whole Comics Gate thing, and in reasonable, being reasonable about it. People are frustrated with the way comics have been going. But here's the thing. They want to say, I want comics to be better. I want good comics. What they mean is they want good Marvel comics. They want comics in their image, not the. They don't want good comics in general. Good comics exist. They've always existed. They may not be Spider-Man. They may not be whatever, but comics have existed. Are they reading them? No, because they want their X-Men back. They want their Spider-Man back. They want their Silver Surfer not to be a Doctor Who fan fiction, you know?
Yeah, basically.
This is what they want. They don't want good comics. They need to shut the fuck up when it comes to that, pardon my French, and just go when it comes to saying, hey, I want good Marvel books that are just like my nostalgia is saying, here, I have no kids and have tons of nostalgia, so here you go. You know, give me the books I want in my past. And when they're not doing it, they get angry, and as they say, they spurg out, as people have said.
Exactly.
Marvel definitely. I mean, I don't read very much Marvel, but they definitely could have handled it a bit better, like transitioning Iron Man into a new hero like Ironheart. There's definitely a way they could have done that. Just follow like the Batman formula.
Like Dick Grayson. It worked so well with Grayson.
Right? You can see him just step right into the role as Batman, and that's no problem.
Same thing with Wally with Flash as well. Yeah,
and you just drop a brand new character in, and she's suddenly better than Iron Man in every way, and you're just supposed to go along with that. You know, I don't read Iron Man, but if they did that with Superman or something, I'd be like, what the heck? This is stupid. So I definitely think Marvel could have done it better, and it seemed like they realized it pretty quick, too, to go to Generations and Legacy almost immediately.
See, a lot of that becomes, it's coming down to the fact that you don't have these... Marvel's always been cheap. They have always been a scummy company. Even though they have all the characters people love, they have treated their creators horribly. They have run people off that were the real talents of the company in the past. Then when you have people like Jim Shooter in the company, who was controversial at the time. The guy was a wonderkind. He was like 15 years old doing the covers for I think it was Adventure Comics, the ones that had Legion Superheroes. He was doing the covers, and then the stories would be written off of that, you know, like that. One of those kind of things. I think that's the way it went. But the dude was like, you know, he's like one of those super geniuses, comic super genius, from kid all the way up to editor. I mean, the guy was just, you know, one of those unique people, and he was trying to. He was actually implemented a plan to give the artists back their original art, because Marvel was keeping that. And what they were doing is, instead of paying a tip for food delivery, they would give out original art, which is now thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands.
Wow.
And Marvel has always been scummy. They've never allegedly. And this is the case allegedly, because one of the party's dead, the other one's on the way out. There's alleged an incident where Marvel and DC, when they're both based in New York, the artists would go back and forth. They would jump from one company to another because the page rates were different. So they kind of play one company against another, and like, hey, you're not got me work this month? Fine, DC's got work for me. I'll go jump over there. Well, Carmine Infantino, Carmine Infantino and Stan Lee allegedly collaborated to lock page rates for both companies, so artists couldn't jump ship. And then if they've locked page rates, they can lower them to a degree. And allegedly, that's the reason Roy Thomas quit being editor-in-chief over it. Because even though he was editor-in-chief, Stan had like the higher position.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Allegedly, of course, because I can't find it. I remember reading this. I can't remember where I read it, and I can't find it again. But maybe it's been expunged from the internet. Who knows? But but Marvel in general, look what they did to the guys at Image. These guys were these artists. They were putting out T-shirts and all this other stuff and posters. Were they seeing any revenue from that? No. So they jumped ship and did Image. So now that's why the comics became like writer-driven for many years. They had good artists, but they're still writer-driven. Hence Bendis and so on and so forth.
Oh man, we're gonna have to talk about that.
Oh, that's definitely why I wanted to include DC Comics. But that's the problem. These people would focus on the Marvel books, and then you look over at DC. Marvel books, Marvel SJW trash, whatever. But then you look at DC. Now, it kind of started the whole Didio stuff. Didio wanted to kill off, Nightwing. That's been like over a decade now, and he didn't get his wish. He wanted to kill off Nightwing. The retcon rape and murder of Sue Dibney. That's worse than any of this supposedly SJW Marvel stuff
Oh yeah,
That's worse than anything. Identity Crisis is one of those books. If I could obliterate one book from existence, that'd be on one of my top lists. That would be one.
Well,
You saw the
I wouldn't
writer
obliterate. I would just rewrote the entire thing completely. Instead of it being like, about Sue did me, whatever, it'd probably be about, a supervillain supposedly wiping away the memories of the heroes, like to cover his tracks. That'd be kind of cool. That would have worked out.
That would actually work out interesting. When you start putting in, like, okay, cancer, rape, certain things into a comic universe. Same thing like you did with Barbara Gordon in the wheelchair. Oh, she's paralyzed. Excuse me, you have a Lazarus pit. You could wheel her ass into the Lazarus pit and dump her out. She'd be okay.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like if you want to be real. See, that's the problem in comics when they try to get real, and when they start to get real, it's like when they like with Superman walking across America, that Straczynski run where he was walking across. Grounded, yes. It's like when you start getting into that, it's like he's doing this where all these horrible things are going on around him.
I don't know. I kind of like the cheesy stuff, but you're right. Superman's time could be better spent.
Exactly. It's like, if it was a charity thing, I could understand, but it works better. It's all about context.
Identity Crisis you were talking about, isn't that by Brian Meltzer, right?
Brad Meltzer. Brad Meltzer and Rags Morales.
I always but yeah, he has a story in the Action Comics 1000 I saw.
Yeah, that one actually, I didn't like that one. I know a lot of people did, and the Comics Purge did, a couple other people did. My thing is, and I used to like John Cassidy's art, but all his guys look the same. Their faces, they look like they're square. Like if you took a block of Play-Doh and it cut the edges off so it's not as sharp, but it's still a block, the faces, they're not very defined. And everything looks kind of mushy. And then the whole thing where, when I think of Superman, I like the idea of Superman having limited powers. Not just jumping, but honestly, the Fleischer Superman is the best Superman interpretation ever. The Fleischer, when he kneels down and then leaps in the air, kind of hovers for a second, and then kind of controls his fall, basically.
Those were
great. Like when he struggles, Superman's struggling, doing something incredible, but still struggling.
I mean, the animated series kind of did something like that because he wasn't very powerful in that. I mean, in one episode, he got his ass kicked by Sinestro pretty good, and he needed Kyle Rayner's help to beat Sinestro.
And also, electricity would kick his ass. You could take out Superman with a taser. Don't tase me, bro.
Yeah.
But
it was actually one scene we actually struggled against Metallo without the kryptonite. It was like they were kind of locked together. They were struggling, like they were dead even. And then when the kryptonite came, that's when he was done.
Yeah, it's like that's the thing. Like the problem with the comics is always escalation. You can't. It's like with the Marvel movies. Sidetrack for a second, but the Marvel movies, they should have built up to Masters of Evil and like the Saul and the Mansion.
That would have been real good.
Because focus on the villains, the character moments, like the heroes interacting with the villains, like Iron Man, who would normally be battling one of his Iron villains, now battling a Captain America villain or battling Abomination or something along those lines. Like the heroes switch up villains. But no, they had to go escalate and get bigger and bigger. And they go, like, after Thanos, reality altering and all that, what can you do next? And it just basically becomes CGI, a splooge fest with CGI. But when it comes back to, Superman, when they've introduced Superman, the fact that he can fly on all this now, that you fly at this incredible speeds, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to make it in time." No, he would have to be saying. I was like, "No, that's the wrong dialogue." He should be saying, "If I go too fast, I'm gonna cause a compression wave that's going to explode buildings." Like he's moving too fast through the atmosphere. In space, he could fly as fast as he wants. There's no air, there's no nitrogen, but with the oxygen and nitrogen molecules around him, and depending on how high in elevation he is,
he's gonna sound cool.
Faster he flies, you get sciencey with a little bit, not too much, but enough to play around with, like that kind of realistic quote unquote. If you flew too fast, basically everything would explode around him in a sonic boom, and boom. Buildings will collapse trying to save one woman from a bullet. One woman, he kills 500 people just to save one woman. But yeah, I didn't like that story that much. But that's me.
Yeah, that's also speaking of super speed. I think that also applies with Flash too. Like, I'm not sure how the Speed Force works, but he breaks the laws of physics a lot, so I think he bypassed the sonic boom thing.
Well, I think that's the Speed Force itself acts like the way I understand it, and the way I would take it about would be the Speed Force acts like a protective barrier between the laws of of reality and the speed itself. It's kind of it's lubricant for BS. It allows you to write whatever.
Sure. It's comic book magic.
Exactly. Especially magic, considering the Speed Force, and they use Speed Force lightning bolts to hurt Superman.
But well, he doesn't like lightning either.
Lightning is a problem. You know, pick him up and yell Shazam and like electrocute him a couple times. Like
magic
Superman,
lightning. So it's gonna double whammy.
Or just get a sword like the guy in Bendis' story.
Oh God, yeah. Now you had to remind me of the horror. Like I loved even though that Meltzer one, I did not like that one that much.
It was okay.
Because I have the issues with it, but even still, I could still get enjoyment from it. If I wanted to be negative, I could be negative about it, but I still got enjoyment from it. Then we get to Bendis, and it's like, imagine if you're eating. It's like that episode of South Park was Scott Tenorman's eating the chili, and it turns out he's eating his parents. And it's like, and this chili tastes pretty good, and then it turns out, well, you're eating your parents.
That is the best analogy ever.
Basically, like Sullivan Green, the movie. When you find out it's people, yeah, basically that.
It's people. It's Bendis. He's here.
It really was a slap in the face because, like you're saying, the rest of the issue is really good. I think, anyway. And it's really Superman-esque. I mean, it's cheesy sometimes.
The first story, the Dan Jurgens one. That one right there, it hurt me so much because I was like, "This is Superman."
The Man of Steel is more concerned about protecting the people than getting worshipped. That's always been Superman. About people.
But he needed that. He needed both. He needed somebody to cover for him, but he also needed people to realize this is who you're fighting for, Clark. These are the people that you're changing lives. You're making a difference. It's not just what you do, it's what you inspire. And that right there, that's Superman.
Yeah.
Will we see this in the Bendis run? Hell no. I can guarantee that. What we see is 3 pages of waitresses arguing over tights, making a deal of it. It's like, don't mention these things this is not the real world, like where people can't help themselves. This is a fictional world where you're the god or goddess, or depending on whoever. You are the creator of this world. You don't have to mention this. It's like the people mentioning, Aquaman's a joke because he talks to fish.
Yeah.
According to that world, you don't have to mention that. That's just you and your idiocy mentioning it.
Yeah, that's like fourth wall breaking. In their universe, it should just be the way it is.
Exactly. See, like that right there, that's exactly it. But 3 pages worth of doing that. Like if they'd have focused on, they're dragging Superman, like how he's heavier than he looks, that kind of thing. That was fine. I like that. That was kind of interesting. And then they had to ruin it with the tights thing. The red trunks and
oh man, and that was only like the 3rd worst thing about it.
Well, the villain, are you? I don't know how well versed in X-Men villains, but the villain, I first saw him, and I was like, this is if Ahab from the Days of Future Present comic was a super mutant. That's it. That's the character design.
Like a Cable clone?
No, well, Ahab was at one time going to be Cable, but he had like that kind of the crazy hair, the kind of that futuristic, somewhat piratey look.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, so it's like that kind of look to him. And then the retcon with the I killed Krypton. I'm like, how many times have we done this? They just recently wrapped it up in the comics with the whole going back and past Krypton, whatever. They did this in Superman Earth 1. How many times have we danced this dance? Do something new. You have the world of opportunity to do something new. But no.
And seriously, that's basically a slap to the face to Brainiac, too, because how many of you read that Action Comics book where he stole the city of Kandar?
Yeah.
Yeah, when we stole Kandar, he bottled it up and everything. That was going around
and basically
taking the world.
He left Krypton alive because he was going to die anyway. He didn't blow it up like he normally would. He just took the city and left because he knew Krypton was going to die.
And them retconning it, it's that retcon stuff, if it makes sense, like with the whole, I'm trying to think of a retcon that makes sense, but I'm blanking right now because that's like looking for your keys. You gotta look for them, you can't find them if you stop looking for them.
Maybe like Crisis on Infinite Earths or something, where they just, or is that too big?
Well,
that
right there, that might be a little too big, but
too big.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, this was supposed to be like the excitement kickoff moment for the Bendis run. This is supposed to be
hyped
like,
it. Dude,
Bendis is coming.
Like,
that was a threat. It was
a
a threat.
promise or a threat. It's a threat.
Bendis came all right. He came all over Superman, and now it's.
He's Superman. Oh no!
But you're right. It was 3 pages of waitresses dragging Superman, and then like 3 pages of him just getting the crap kicked out of him. Like, if someone bought Action Comics 1000, they probably don't want to see Superman get beat up on every page and then get stabbed. It looks like he gets killed. I'm sure he didn't, but it was just like, this is how you're ending your comic.
The only thing they could have added to make it worse was that bad guy, whatever his name is, to kick Crypto. It's like that.
His name is stupid too.
It's like it's not memorable.
Roar or something.
It's like Kylor, Lorcar. I can't. Who cares?
It's Rorgol Zar. There. He's got an alien name.
It's Sir.
It's not even memorable. Oh, and the other thing I was wondering too, he says he killed all the Kryptonians, so is Zod dead too then?
And let's not forget about Kandar, Brainiac, remember? It's like,
yeah. It's like,
I killed all the Kryptonians except the ones Brainiac took.
How about Doomsday? How about go after Doomsday? Doomsday's Kryptonian technically. Go after
prehistoric Kryptonian.
Well, still Kryptonian. He's like Kryptonian caveman, but not really, even though he's whatever. But
apparently, this new villain is a lot stronger than Doomsday too, because he took Superman down just like nothing.
Which I think is bullshit.
Well, it is, because you look at these.
Yeah.
I was looking through some of Superman's villains. This is before this whole Bendis thing, and I can't remember who I was talking to about it, but I was looking through, and there was a character called Negative Superman. And he's like the photo negative version of Superman. I was thinking, okay, that would be really kind of weird and creepy because he could have that art style, like where they take artists, they do flip it and everything's done digitally nowadays anyway. But instead, this negative Superman, he buries himself in the earth because he's only powerful at night. Like that kind of thing. I was like, kind of not going like supernatural, but kind of like he builds him a suit. He's still got the brain of Superman, where the super science stuff.
Yeah.
Like that would be cool. That'd be a cool, interesting take on a villain. You could add new villains to Superman's rogues gallery. There's not enough, in my opinion, because since they co-opted the Fourth World, especially with Darkseid as Superman villains, it doesn't feel right, really. It just
Darkseid's more of a Justice League villain, to be honest.
Yeah, but they still make them Supermans. That's the unfortunate thing. It's like
see the Darkseid Superman that was like that. It was like black and white, inverted, kind of.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
I thought you meant the one where he was when Superman was the acolyte of Darkseid, where he was.
No, it was like the Dark Matter universe one.
Oh, okay.
Something from the Darkseid War. It was the single issue, the Superman tie-in issue, and it was like an evil Superman, but it was the flipped colors too, where it's just black and white, like you're describing.
Well, I know the negative Superman concept's been around. The thing first appeared in the 50s. It's like one of those crazy 50s creations. But it's like one of these 50s for all ills. Superman with the magic miniature powers or whatever. He's like he shoots out miniature versions of himself out of his hands, which actually would. Man, how creepy would that be if Clark and Lois wake up one night and a bunch of like Lilliputian Supermen are carrying Lois off? What is he going to do? There's little versions of himself. He can't crush him. He can't punch him. That'd be creepy when you think about it. They're not crawling all over Lois. It's like,
protect the queen.
It's like Evil Dead, right? Or Army of Darkness.
Evil Dead. Yeah, Evil Dead. Army of Darkness. Yeah, Army of Darkness.
Oh God, I love that scene.
Yeah.
The two-headed Superman. And then the Superman splits off.
I'm bad, Clark, and you're a good Clark.
You're kidding, Clark. And then Superman buries him at the Fortress of Solitude, and he wakes up. He's all skull. And just Eradicator 2.0 at that point. But that's another thing. It's like these characters, people forget that they don't mind the concepts of the past that well. And if they're going to introduce new things, hey, that's fine. But try to go big, go home. Go big or go home, and especially when he's like, okay, some mangy pirate alien thing. I killed your planet. Okay, and retcon. You're gonna be written over. Nobody's gonna care in 5 years.
It could have been handled better, to say the least.
Yeah. Like, would it have been interesting to do anything? Like, it could have, if the guy, like, don't show it to the last page of this person kicking Superman's ass, and it turns out to be Electric Blue Superman or something, or it's I don't know, cool. Something like that. Something interesting.
I actually liked that in the '90s, the Electric Blue Superman. I know
I think a lot of people liked the design. It's just the story they hated.
Yeah.
I think that story, and I like the design as well. I like the idea of it. This Superman kind of, the whole. Kind of keep himself contained and all this and that. And they turned him into a minor Captain Marvel a little bit, but it was mainly just to break the monotony. It was kind of the new Coke kind of deal. Is that they did it just to kind of get out of the stagnation, because this is after the marriage, this is after Death of Superman, then the return and everything like that. And so they were just pumping out so many stories. It was like. Where they could have now, it's everything. It was so compressed back then that they had to do that. Now it's so decompressed that they don't. It's like where because action comic story would feed over into the Adventures of Superman. They would feed over to this, and it was all over the place. It was everything bleeding together. That's why they had the little triangle tags on the covers to tell you which one is week this part 20. To keep track of it.
Tie-ins too, and everything's tied together.
Yeah, it's like, well, then that's another thing. It's the whole tie-in thing with DC. I read the first issue of Metal, and I said I'm gonna wait till the trade, because to me it was a little way too expensive, and also I'll just it seemed like a decent enough story. It seemed like a '90s story. It seemed like what was that one? The not Blood Rain, not Blood Ties. The one that introduced Hitman. Back in the '90s for DC, that story.
Oh, I don't think I know.
But it was kind of one of those '90s stories. It was basically people would the metahumans. It was like this metahuman bomb went off or something and created a bunch of new heroes. And the only one that actually really happened after that was Hitman, the Garth Ennis character. But it felt like a '90s story. That's what Metal felt like. Same thing with Flashpoint. Flashpoint felt like it pretty much was Age of Apocalypse, but with DC Comics. And with the Kubert art that didn't dissuade me any. Bloodlines. That's it. That's it.
Okay.
Bloodlines. Okay. But with that being the case, there's no problem when you're looking back to the '90s for nostalgia, and man, that was some good times. That's bad. That's kind of bad. That you have to go.
Oh, for sure.
Because '80s, '70s, when it was that pure and everything, and less corporate, it's still corporate, but it was less so. You still had these people that you had Claremonts, you had your Frank Millers doing crazy stuff with it, but you had John Byrne, this lone madman taking over Superman, redoing everything, the birthing Matrix, and Lex Luthor is basically Donald Trump, and then the space plane stuff, and which people have been pulling from. If it wasn't for that Man of Steel, the first 6 issues of Man of Steel, you wouldn't have Superman Returns, you wouldn't have Man of Steel, you wouldn't have Smallville, you wouldn't have the bunch of other stuff. You would a lot of that stuff. It wouldn't exist if it wasn't for John Byrne.
Yeah.
Well, it's so iconic too.
It is, and it's really good. That was really good, and also getting rid of that pretense of the whole. Will Lois see through Clark's disguise? Now I'm Superman. Just go ahead and get it out of the way, and they didn't retcon it. Thank God.
They've kept it that way in Rebirth.
Yeah, but
because they brought back the post-crisis Superman and killed off the New 52 version.
Oh, that's right. They because post-crisis Superman, and then because they gave him Jonathan as well, and being married to Lois with the black suit, which I like that, with a beard and black suit, which looked good. And then the New 52 Superman with his Chinese collar. Even though I will say this, that little extra bit of detail around the wrists for the new Superman costume, I do not like. Like that little the double band, if you know what I'm talking about, around the wrist.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It doesn't look right. Just make him a classic Jose Luis Garcia Lopez Superman. That's no problem with that.
Oh man,
that was great to see him doing the art. I didn't know he was still doing art.
Oh yeah, he is my favorite. Well, one of my favorites. Like on my Facebook page, I post every day a Jose Luis Garcia Lopez picture. So when I saw he did a story in there, the pencils for it, I was so excited.
We can't
But
go
yeah,
wrong
he's
with it.
classic, exactly. Like just yep.
He's the
He
house
did
style. That
exactly.
when they do those figures and stuff, and even from the 70s onward, when they do the character art for figures, for toys, whatever, merchandise,
T-shirts.
they use his art.
Yep. Yeah, I see it all the
Mhm.
time. You go into Walmart and it's just his art on the racks. Very cool.
Exactly, because you got these people that they're, God love him, Jim Lee, you know Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. And as much as I like Jim Lee in the past, modern Jim Lee's work doesn't do much for me anymore. It's like, I know he's somewhat improved as an artist, but I wish he would just do watercolor stuff because he's much better at that, or do pencils and just let somebody else ink. Because that Scott Williams, whoever there was a book he did. It was
Immortal Men or
Flinch. It was a Vertigo book. It was like a kind of little anthology, kind of like almost was like the Tales from the Crypt a little bit, but with like science fiction stories mainly.
Right.
And one of them in particular was about this guy who builds like a homemade rocket pack to become this rocket man. And Jim Lee did it, and his art looked so much different. It was not as detailed. It didn't do as many lines and everything, but it looked good. And then you look at his stuff like for, like said, Immortal Men and so on and so forth. It doesn't look as good as it did here. It's like the more stripped down his style is, the better it looks, because the over exaggerated lines. I mean, that's his style, but it doesn't have to be. He can have multiple different takes on it. It's like there's other artists out there who could do the same thing, but he peaked in the '90s, really. Unfortunately, but that's how it goes.
It's weird too, being in a time when there's like a dozen variants of Action Comics 1000, and the one I like the least is the Jim Lee one.
Yeah,
it's kind of like what?
It's really unfortunate. I was leaning towards that Michael Cho, which is that the '40s split looking one where he's like buy what bonds, and
that's the one I got.
Which is it's a great looking cover. It's a great looking cover.
It really is. Yeah. Buy war bonds and stamps.
Yeah, except I'm pretty sure it isn't a picture of Batman and Robin on the back with a machine gun nest shooting at Japanese soldiers. I'd actually buy that though. There is a issue of the Terror, or was it what was the name of the Terror? It was one of the public domain heroes, and he's driving a steamroller over Japanese soldiers while kids are watching him on TV, like this giant TV.
Wow!
And it was like buy war bonds. He's rolling over Japanese soldiers. I'm like, oh my god, that is. It's like hey, that's a different time. You couldn't do that now with against terrorism. It's like buy war bonds, fight the Syrians, fight Assad. Driving over, with a bulldozer, people screaming.
Yeah,
it doesn't work that way. It's not as black and white as it was back then. The Japanese attacked us. Yes, we had to go to war with them. It's not the same. That's how you feel attacking us directly anymore. But
higher stakes too. Like we didn't know if we were going to win or lose or what.
Yeah, considering what the Japanese were doing to the other nations over there, then like the Indochina and Korea and China itself.
China.
Well, Korea too. There's a movie. It's a fictionalized movie, but it's called The Men Behind the Sun, and it's of course exaggerated and everything, but it is based off some real things that happen where like the human experimentation and torture and like throwing people into ice water, cutting them open like vivisections while they're alive. Really horrible. The Japanese didn't care. They didn't look at these people as human beings. They looked at them as experiments. It's really horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. It wasn't. Of course, it wasn't all Japanese, but it still happened. And it's one of those things like, you can use this propaganda for whatever, but it's it is kind of hard. It's like Apocalypse. Like look at the villains like say Apocalypse or on Apocalypse. The parademons ate these people. Okay, let's kill all parademons. There's probably one good parademon out there, but let's take no chances. But when it came to those covers, I had to go with the blank variant, the sketch variant, because I might either do one myself or get somebody to do it for me. But But yeah, the Jim Lee cover was the weakest one out of them all. But, yeah, pretty much everyone else looked good. The Jurgens cover looked good. The Mike Allred cover looked good. That threw back to the 50s.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the Jim Lee cover just looked bland.
Yeah, it was strange. I was glad I didn't have to get that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, they're down to it. It's like, oh, I want to get the book, but I don't want to get that cover. I don't want to be stuck with that cover. It's $8 to look at that.
Yeah, because I didn't get it till yesterday, so I thought maybe they'd be sold out, but he still had like 8 different covers.
It's like, my store. They actually had it was for $60. This big old bundle of the all the covers, all 10 covers and everything in a bundle for like $60. And I was looking at it, I was like, yeah, it has a Jim Lee cover, no thank you.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it's like, this isn't. Why would I want that? Who would want?
That's the main cover, though. I think. So
oh yeah, that was the promotional art they were using. You know, Bendis is coming. Bendis is coming.
Yep.
Bendis is coming.
Jim Lee did the art on that story.
Oh my god! And it was not good art anyway. That was not good. And it worked, but it just didn't. It like every other artist in that book, even John Cassidy, who I have issues with, out the yin yang, was still more exciting than the Jim Lee work. And I know a lot of people will disagree with that, but it didn't look right to me. It didn't fit the character. It especially did not fit Superman. And even going back to that very lackluster Superman, oh damn it, For Tomorrow, the one with not Doomsday, the one where he gets sucked into the Phantom Zone that's turned all religious or whatever, and there's a guy, he battles Zod, but it's not really Zod. It might be Zod, who cares? But the comic he did with Brian Azzarello, that art there was much better than this. But and that was about 10 years ago now. So maybe he's getting bad in his old age. Who knows?
Yeah, I think he's just getting older. He didn't even do all of the art on Immortal Men. That was one issue. And from what I'd read, Immortal Men was supposed to be the first New Age of Heroes book to come out, but it kept getting delayed.
That makes sense.
One.
Well, look at Jim Lee in general, and like this kind of goes back to like a lot of people, they harp on Marvel being what they are and everything, but DC, it can be just as bad. And like one of the things that DC did years and years ago, even though they had the Wildstorm imprint, this is back when Wildstorm was still separate from them. I don't know if you remember, they did a Wildcats. They did a Wildcats and Authority book that was supposed to be both written by Grant Morrison. And the Wildcats, there was only one issue that came out, and that was it. Illustrated by Jim Lee, only one issue. And Authority, only one issue came out. That was written by Grant Morrison, I think art by Gene Ha. The Authority doesn't even show up in the book. The whole book is focused on a submarine in the Atlantic or Pacific or something, and they find the ship from the Authority. The dog-faced ship. They find that at the bottom of the ocean, and the doorway opens up, and that's how the book ends.
Lame as hell.
Yeah. And no issues after that. Nothing. So, when it comes down to it, DC can be just as bad. And I know a lot of people have been loving Damage. I hated it.
Oh, God, I hate all the New Age hero books. If the exception of the Terrifics. That's the only one I like.
Silencer, I really like. I've been really liking Silencer a lot. But I'm a big fan of John Romita Jr., and I kind of like that. It's like Kill Bill, but actually has more heart to it. That's the main reason I like it.
You saw he did a page in Action Comics 1000.
That was horrible. That was
okay.
The most awful piece of art. If you look at that, the right leg or the leftmost leg, which would be his right, is like thin. It looks like it's been in a cast for like 6 weeks.
Oh,
it's
been
atrophied.
I've seen it.
And then
why did they include that?
It looks like a sketch they just picked up off of his desk, like it's a throwaway sketch, like he balled it up or something. It doesn't look right. This is like
you went to lunch and they just were like, we only got
damn, we need another page to fill. We need another page.
Well, that's how it felt with those pinups. There's like 3 of them, and that one and another one are just terrible. It looks like Rob Liefeld drew the other one. I didn't know who it was.
You know what? I think Rob would have done a better job. That's scary.
Probably. There
I
is
saw
one
Phantom,
good one.
I saw a real good Phantom illustration of Rob Liefeld last night, and it kind of shocked me. I was like, I know this is bad. I'm being told, I'm in my head, this is bad, Larry. You're looking at something really bad. But I kind of liked, even though it's generic pose and this and that, he's got the pistol out and all that. But it looks like the Phantom, and that's what's unfortunate. It's more on point than a lot of these other Phantom books. When they've done Phantom, it's like it doesn't look right. I have a feeling that Liefeld would actually do Superman where he looks super, and not have like this really one scrawny leg, one withered up leg, like he's been in a cast.
Yeah, exactly. That's what bothers me about his art style.
You know, it just
the one good pinup though, the Jorge Jimenez one. That one's pretty cool. Where he's sitting on a cloud.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me a bit of the Frank Whiteley, a little bit. The one from the cover to All Star Superman. It reminded me of that a little bit. Not exactly, but close enough.
Yep. I get that feel too. The All Star Superman one.
Yeah.
That's another great Superman story. That's another one that's like I'm surprised, but you actually have to know Superman a bit. You can't really just jump into that book and appreciate it unless you've read other Superman books, or at least be knowledgeable enough of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and modern Superman.
Yeah.
Because you can't just jump into it and be fully immersed. You actually have to know Superman and somewhat enjoy Superman to get that book. It's not new reader friendly. The best book for new reader friendly stuff, Superman, would be for the man who not for the man who has everything, but For All Seasons. The Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb Superman which is actually
okay.
Have you ever read that one?
No, but I like both the writer and the artist you mentioned.
It is. As far as I can tell, it is the most. And as way I describe it, it's the most heartfelt Superman story because it's beautifully illustrated. If you look, just I could say, just type in, maybe look up some sample pages from it.
What was it called again?
Superman For All Seasons.
Okay.
And it is beautiful. Got beautiful art. There's bits of it where it's a love letter to Superman, and it's a love letter to the world of it closest thing. It reminds me of a more serious take, and I mean serious is like more like heartfelt, more adult take on the animated series. It reminds me a lot of the animated series in many ways.
Oh yeah.
But it's beautiful. It's one of those fantastic comics, and I recommend it highly. Like I've told some people, I said, like, if you don't really like Superman, you like Superman, but you haven't really read a good Superman story. Superman works good. He works better in a confined space, like beginning, middle, and end, in that kind of thing. But because if Superman's around, then really there wouldn't be that many. I mean, there'd be a lot of problems, yes, but you can Superman's backup. There's a problem, called Superman to come help you out. And if you didn't get Superman, so it spirals out of control, so it gets worse. That makes no sense. And, Superman exists in that world, so yes, it is a feel-good story, Matt. Yeah, but it's like I'm kind of disappointed that there hasn't been a new, kind of a new research. I know that the last time they did a Superman game, which was, if I'm not mistaken, the
N64.
Actually, no, there's been a Superman game before that. It was actually Superman, I think, called Man of Steel. It was an Xbox the first Xbox game, and it didn't look that good either. It was really. Sorry, I take it back. There was Superman Returns for the Xbox 360 and the Xbox. Oh, I remember that one now. Yes, because
I remember. Oh god.
Yeah, the only good thing about it is like when you'd fly and then you boost and you hear the sonic boom, which is cool. But I really hope there's a new Superman game coming out eventually. But yeah, who knows really? But as far with both of you seem to have a very good knowledge of DC and stuff. And as far as that goes, is there anything recently, that you have a positive and a negative as far as Superman goes, or DC in general goes lately, from either one of you or both of you? If there's a positive and a negative, if the DC could improve on something they've been doing well and something they haven't.
Okay, as okay, let me figure one. As for positive, I would say probably the Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps by Rob Venditti has been really good, very consistently good. I mean, there's like one storyline that I didn't like about it. That was when they turned Sonic not too full Sinestro. But aside from that, that book has been very good, and I love the fact that they brought back the Dark Stars, which were pretty much a very obscure villain of the Green Lanterns back, I think, in the 70s and 80s. But I like how Venditti, basically used DC history and brought them back, which I thought was cool because aside from the Sinestro Corps, the Red Lanterns,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of other obscure Green Lantern villains, there's not really that many Green Lantern bad guys out there.
Get more villains then. Kind of
Yeah.
getting a.
And
Yeah, they usually fight like crossover villains, huh?
yeah, for the most part.
Well, and that's the thing. Is like, like I said, that's another thing. The idea of putting more villains out there. They need more. They need better villains instead of focusing on different spectrums of the lanterns and all that. Oh, there's a rainbow lantern, there's a white lantern, a black lantern, a green, a blue, a purple.
It also kind of brings back to your previous point about bringing back obscure villains from the back in the day and bringing them to the modern age.
Oh,
And plus, I also love the new designs for the Dark Stars.
yeah, bringing back some Golden Age villains would be cool. And DC, they own so many characters because they bought up all those smaller, comic book companies.
Yeah.
Like Fawcett and Fun and Adventure and just all those. They're sitting on just literally thousands of characters.
And they don't really use them enough. My
No.
biggest negative would have to be, that's a tough one. It's like there's a couple of negatives out there. Probably the use of a lot of their female characters in the comic books. Like you look at Supergirl, Batgirl, and a bunch of them, they have not done very well at all. They've been written pretty badly. I mean, there are exceptions to the rule, but for main comic books, I would not let my kid read any of those because they're just that bad.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's how I feel at least.
How about Batwoman?
I haven't. Batwoman just seems pretty boring, to be honest. Like, there's not nothing interesting.
I'll admit that, because everybody's praising, with the was it Rucka and J.H. Williams III Batwoman. This is back in, I think it was before, the New 52. And I was, this is an amazing book, so I finally picked it up. It was good looking, but boring. Nothing happens in it. It's like, okay, she's military, but just don't ask, don't tell kind of thing. Okay, so she's a lesbian. Okay, she paints her face white. Okay, that's it. She battles some fairy tale villain or something. I was like, I can care less.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but because the last Wonder Woman book I read before the New 52 would have to be A League of One, which is a Justice League book, but mainly stars Wonder Woman, and Acacia, which were both really good in my opinion. I mean, Acacia wasn't perfect though because it made Batman look like a giant asshole, but that's Batman. It's supposed to be one.
That one's the things out of print. I actually had that one. I found it. I put it in some storage, and it got water damaged.
Oh damn!
But it's thankfully for me, I never really. I was like, oh, this. I didn't care for the book that much anyway, so it got water damage. Whatever. It's like I hurt my feelings. It got pretty badly water damaged. I guess it's still technically readable. I wouldn't recommend it, but But yeah, it's the villain issue, the character issue. They got to if you don't want to introduce a bunch of new heroes, because there's a lot of characters they have they don't do nothing with, and when they do something, it's very rarely, and there's no excuse not to have these characters out there. But that's why they should have a big name writer and artist on a lower name character. Go ahead and bring up pump them up to the spotlight.
Yeah, they're kind of doing that with the Terrifics and and also the upcoming Hawkman series with Venditti.
I was just gonna say, pretty much all the New Age of Heroes books have gotten big names.
Yeah, they got a lot of big names, but they're mostly new characters, with the exception of Terrifics. If you think about it.
True, yeah.
Think about everyone knows Mr. Terrific. I mean, not a lot of people know about Mr. Terrific, Classic Man, or Metamorpho, but they're by DC fans, they're loved characters. And the best part is they also kind of introduced a new character too, Phantom Girl. But
well,
wait, yeah. I know she's existed since the League of
New
Superheroes, but
version
it's a
of her,
different
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
It's a newer version.
True.
But they make it work because, right?
New
Put her
person.
in a team with older heroes, and they don't make it seem like she's better than them. She's just part of she works with them. She's part of the team, which I think is great.
I love the Terrifics.
I still take issue with DC, even though Alan Moore can be quite a prick and everything, but I just take issue so much with Before Watchmen, and then Before Watchmen, Doomsday Clock I take issue with, but especially the bringing in the Doomsday Clock's bad enough, because you already had Before Watchmen, and pretty much everybody that worked on Before Watchmen, I lost so much. I mean, who cares? Well, Larry doesn't respect me. Oh no, how am I going to get over this? But I don't seek out their books anymore.
Even Darwin Cook.
Even Darwin Cook, because he worked on that too. I was like, Darwin, and then he died.
Really?
And everything. I said, yeah, he worked on. I lost.
I mean, I know he worked on it, but he's so good.
Who did?
Darwin Cook.
Yeah, Darwin.
You don't like him anymore because of that?
Well, he doesn't make anything anymore. Let's doing it beyond the grave. But
put out a lot when he was.
But no, after that, I think that's when he was like his kind of work, because that Before Watchmen was after he did that Spirit run when DC had the rights. But after that, I was like, I still like the New Frontier. Don't get me wrong, but there's thankfully he did nothing after that of interest. So before he passed. But like even Amanda Connor and the rest of them, it's like
New 52.
New 52 is probably worse, but with them bringing in the America's Best Comics characters into the DC universe, like with Promethea over in Justice League, and then Tom Strong into the Terrifics, and a couple other things, it feels very wrong. Because even though the Watchmen, that's like one of those things like DC's like, okay, we're going for as many things that Marvel's screwed up on as far as not paying people and cheating people out of money and keep giving back their art. DC can be just as bad in the past and in the somewhat present. When they basically said, okay, once Watchmen goes out of print, the rights revert back to Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. Watchmen just never goes out of print, and then eventually the rights never go back. They buy out Dave Gibbons. Alan Moore's like, screw you. That's why that rumor, the allegedly thing where Jim Lee to sell off Wildstorm and Homage Studios to DC, he signed on Alan Moore knowing full well that to sweeten the deal to get Alan Moore back under the roof at DC, he did that. He sold Alan Moore down the river, allegedly. Because that makes sense. The timetable works out. Because he was already started working on the America's Best Comics stuff, and then boom, here comes DC buying up Wildstorm.
Basically, DC's been actively trying to ruin Alan Moore's life.
Well, not necessarily ruin, but like milk him. He's like a cow with golden udders. But look, am I wrong? Mogo, he created Mogo. Look what they did. Mogo, the
Living Planet.
The whole stuff from the backup stories that he did, Killing Joke. Watchmen, of course. Pretty much everything he's touched, he was like, "Oh, it's horrible."
Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing. What did he do with Swamp Thing? And John Constantine. Huh?
Oh,
yeah. People forget that the movie, TV shows, even though the TV show didn't work, but that's NBC. That's not John Constantine's fault. That's being on NBC's fault.
Yeah.
But but with
on CW,
it really should have. I know he's showing up apparently in was it
Legends Tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we put him in here, and but yeah, it's like really unfortunate that these characters, which were, even though they were based off of Golden Age creations and everything, and these kind of public domain, the dime store trash pulp novel kind of thing, it's still, that's very much Alan Moore's character, and who else is the artist? Oh. Damn it! I can picture Chris Sprouse, like that kind of Chris Sprouse, J.H. Williams, these kind of characters. But no, it was like some random DC writers using them. Okay, it's like it feels wrong. It feels very wrong. It's like if somebody were to say, "Hey, I'm using Robert Venditti." Oh, he start writing Savage Dragon. What? It's like, I don't really care about Savage Dragon, but still, that's not his character. It feels like that, but or Spawn. For example, better example or something.
Yeah.
where but that kind of thing. It's like we're bringing these characters in there where they don't belong, where they got so many other characters that have not been used in a long time.
Captain Marvel being the biggest one.
Which, like that right there, if they don't want to call him Captain Marvel because of the whole name, and they don't, want to be able to, his first name was Captain Thunder. That was the first name when they put the ash can out back in 1940. It was Captain Thunder, and it was called Flash Comics. Captain Thunder Flash Comics, and then they changed it to Captain Marvel. And then there's a cover where he's like standing in front of a wall getting shot at. There's a guy with a knife coming at him and everything. And then they turned into Captain Marvel. So idea of a guy named Captain Thunder makes so much sense, and they kind of joked around with that. They did that in a 70s Superman book, where a guy named Captain Thunder shows up, and they did it in Flashpoint, where when the 7 kids get together, they form Captain Thunder.
That's right. That's why that sounds familiar.
But the idea of a guy named, hi, my name's Captain Thunder, and it makes sense. He says Shazam, and then you hear thunder. It's like he goes behind a building, and then you hear the thunder, and then boom, here comes Captain Thunder flying out. It makes a lot more sense than, hi, my name's Captain Marvel, or sorry, hi, my name's Shazam. That makes no sense because he can't say his name. He can't introduce himself. We just have business cards made up.
Wizard too.
Exactly. You can't even talk to the wizard. Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. The wizard was named Shazam.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It's one of those. Hey, that's another thing. DC got their ass handed to them back then. They didn't play fair. They sued Fawcett, which didn't have as much money. And like
I've heard that's why Captain Marvel doesn't get used very much, is because he was outselling Superman, and DC just took him, bought him, and then just never let Captain Marvel rise to that prominence again.
It's kind of messed up considering how much they use Black Adam. Like, seriously, Black Adam gets more spotlight than the hero.
True. I do like Black Adam, though.
Well, see, this is what happened. You had Captain Marvel, you had Fawcett outselling, because the revisionist history within comics is so bad. Because I've watched one of those documentaries. It was one of those comic book documentaries. I think it was on PBS or one of the channels. And the first child superhero, which is Peter Parker, I'm like,
What?
No, like
in the 60s?
Yeah, no, it was Billy Batson
or something like that, whatever. But
exactly, Billy Batson was the first. Exactly, Billy Batson says the magic word Shazam, becomes Captain Marvel, and then his sister, says Shazam, but her Shazam is not Solomon Hercules. It's Selena, Hera.
Mary Marvel.
Athena.
Right?
Yeah, and then Freddie Freeman, Captain Marvel Jr. Crippled kid becomes he basically Elvis.
The Marvel family, basically.
Designed himself after Captain Marvel Jr. And it was out because they taken this concept. Okay, these are not kid heroes; these are kids who become heroes and do their thing, but they're adults or somewhat adult looking and not being talked down to. Outselling Superman, we can't have that. They sue him into oblivion, and then legal reasons and everything like that. So Marvel gets Captain Marvel, the name, the IP, where the character goes to DC. So that's the whole reason. And then, we can't put on the book Captain Marvel. They got to call it Power Shazam or Shazam Captain Marvel, whatever.
See, that wasn't as bad calling it the Power of Shazam. Those Jerry Ordway books, right?
Yeah, that was really good. Those were really fun. That was good to see him back, and that was good to see him back on with that Louis Simonson story within Action Comics 1000.
Yeah,
they really brought out the talent on that book. How did they get the Kurt Swan art though? Is that
I think that might have been either unpublished or maybe like inked by somebody else. I think
it does say it's inked by someone else.
Yeah, Murphy Anderson, I know he did the last page. I think that story might have been floating around for a while, probably like it was a backup for some other comic. Yeah. I don't know. I've never seen it before, but there's a lot of books. I'm not going to complain. It wasn't a bad story. It's a little weird, but but other than that, it was fine.
I liked it. Yeah. But I just was surprised. It said art by Kurt Swan. I'm like, what? How?
Ouija board magic.
Apparently.
They put a piece of paper down on the Ouija board and put the thing on top with a graphite, and the graphite is Kurt
come
draw.
Back. It's not drawn.
But honestly, when it came down to seeing to seeing Captain Marvel. I know they're doing that, the filming and the set photos are not looking promising, but it looks pretty rough. It looks pretty rough so far, but who knows? It just I do like the I know Mark Strong is playing Savanya, which I'm like, oh damn it, because he was the best thing. Because I was kind of hoping if they're gonna salvage anything from that Green Lantern movie, they'd make him Sinestro. But Sinestro is the Green Lantern of Earth. He's like, I'm taking over for Hal Jordan or something. Yeah. Like then the betrayal. But yeah, it's just really bad. It's just really rough. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to be, because they always do so much CGI and stuff. It's hard to know just from seeing the, some of the photos.
Yeah, true. You can, some of them you can kind of like a little rough around the edges, but who knows?
Like Marvel, Captain Marvel movie?
Oh, where it here's the thing. The actress, was not Allison? Was Allison something?
I don't even know.
It's something.
Brie Larson.
Brie Larson. Okay, I was about to say Allison Brie, but no, that's the wrong name. But
no, that's correct.
No, that is incorrect. So, but there's, she's not ugly, but not that attractive either. Not like one of these, like, oh, like I could, oh my gosh, you got my full attention. And that costume, it's like somebody said, hey, remember those X-Men costumes from the 2000s everybody joked about because of the biker suits? Yeah, let's go back to that.
But worse.
Yeah.
At least those were black and cool looking.
Well,
yeah,
the
true.
thing is, the colors are a callback to the old Marvel Kree uniforms.
Oh.
That's like that.
Well, that's what I was when I first saw it. I was like, if that's what they're going for, it looks really bad because like they can, like, first off, those like alien-looking suits, the one with it's the planet, like the Saturnian style planet with the ring around it. That would be fine.
Kree-Lar, yeah.
Yeah, but that costume looks just rough. It looks really, it's rough looking. And not very flattering, but she doesn't have a flattering figure, I don't think, was who I might have talked, But, yeah, it just, there's nothing about it. It's like, oh my God, it's interesting. And it's like, but Marvel have misused the Captain Marvel character. The only thing the character is known for is dying cancer. And that's it. That's the only thing Captain Marvel's ever really done. Any Captain Marvel is either be mannish looking or die of cancer. And that's it. That's the only thing is the Captain Marvel name when it comes to Marvel Comics. That's all it's got going on.
Yeah, it's pretty rough when you think about that. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just. It's quite unfortunate that this is the state of affairs within comics in general. But that Captain Marvel, which is a much better character, Billy Batson, this guy who's wholesome, he's doing the right thing. He's got interesting villains, Mr. Mind.
The Seven Sins.
The Seven Sins, Mr. Mind's Eyeback, Captain Nazi,
Yeah.
Captain Nazi, Atomo. Was it Atomo or Atomico? Or Mr. Adam?
Mr. Adam.
Mr. Adam, because I want to say there's something
big robot.
Yeah, the big atomic robot, yeah. Got Savanya. Savanya's ugly ass daughter.
True.
Black Adam,
of course.
Of course, that's a big one.
Who else? He's got some pretty good villains though. That's a pretty good, solid villain lineup for it. And that's a character who has not had a solo book in what? And we named off about like pretty much every villain he had. That's good. That's pretty good.
All the main ones, anyway.
Yeah, but but that's the thing. Like you have. There's so much potential in that book, but there's so many cynical comic creators. You have supporting characters like Talkie Tawny.
Yep.
The tiger, I remember him.
Yeah, like I like the idea of him being actual tiger, not just a stuffed thing. The stuffed tiger that's come to life. I know there's two different versions. One of them where he's an anthropomorphic tiger, and the other one he is a stuffed tiger that's come to life.
Oh.
Either way works, but I like the idea of this kind of. He's like the I look at him like the gremlin from Gremlins 2, the very smart one. He's like, we're a very sophisticated species, and my brothers, but it's like, Yes, I would bite you, but you're not worth it. I may get a disease. You know, it's like that kind of thing. I'd like to see that. Would it ever happen? No, but it's just unfortunate. But as far as the way they treat these characters, DC can be as people, need to pay attention. The fact that DC, like anybody, they can be just as bad. But these
worse.
Or worse in some regards. But as far as I understand people been so excited about Doomsday Clock, and then I just say Doomsday because of the villain. But but with them. The book clearly is not. If everything's going to be delayed this much, that clearly means that it's out of continuity, or it's not continuity heavy. Considering the costume wise, it's still that it's like that Rebirth style costume, which I hate. Yeah. I hate that Superman costume with the little the belt buckle and that's it. No trunks. It doesn't look right.
I think it is in the Rebirth continuity, isn't it?
Well, if it is, but. It's going to be really late. It's going to be like next year for Raph's late next year.
It's gone bi-monthly.
Yeah, so it's like what? They're up to issue 5 right now?
4. I just got issue 4.
Okay, so that's like... So it's going to be the next... 8 issues. It's going to be 12 issues. Now there's over 16 months.
Wow.
It's going to take 2 years to finish. Almost
2 years for something that ain't going to be... Honestly, when you... Okay, to contrast and compare, Jeff Johns, who can write amazing work, and then you go and look at what he's done for Doomsday Clock. I've asked people this, and I've not been satisfied with any answer. Just Jeff Johns, what he's done in the past compared to what he's done in Doomsday Clock. Is Doomsday Clock the best thing Jeff Johns wrote? You read from the first issue, you can usually tell.
No! He's done so much better. And his Green Lantern stuff alone, it's like Sun and Moon different.
I like Doomsday Clock, but I mean, no, it's not Jeff Johns' best.
I mean, let's be honest. Jeff Johns basically brought the Green Lantern Corps to prominence. What's he gonna do with Doomsday Clock? Oh yeah, Superman's gonna fight Dr. Manhattan. Who cares? All Dr. Manhattan has to do is just snap his fingers. Superman's gonna blow up.
Well, he's intangible. He can go intangible too. I mean, he's he quantum states and all that. But you read that first issue of Watchmen, it hooks you. You don't know who the characters are. You don't know any of the things, but it hooks you from that first issue. The mystery and everything hooks you. Doomsday Clock is filler. Okay, people are protesting because the Rorschach's Journal, and the world's gonna end. Superman wakes up from a dream. That's it. That's all that happens. Some villains break out, and that's it. That's it. That's really all that happens.
I do like Gary Frank's art though. I think
Gary Frank's art works.
Artist, but he takes too long.
That's the thing. They should have had the book basically done and then say the book's coming out, because that's another thing. Like, if you look at DC now, in many cases, it's like 90s Image, but a little bit more streamlined, so it isn't as bad. But the delays for books, especially Doomsday Clock, artist-driven books, because if you notice, they put an artist over the writers. And that doesn't really bother me too much. It's kind of weird to see. Like, you see, like, they won't even say writers and artists anymore. They say, like, creators, and then put, like, Tony Daniel, Robert Venditti.
Yeah.
It's weird. I know.
And when I do a review, then I have to go and freaking double-check who the artist and the writer actually are, because it just says creator. And you're like, creator, okay, so...
That's why, like, with Sean Gordon Murphy, you don't have to worry about that, because he's doing everything.
He's both, yeah.
True.
But when it comes down to it, you look at Damage. Like 20-page comic, each issue is 20 pages. Like I only read the first 2, but 20 pages each, and out of each issue, 12 of those 20 are double-page splashes, parts of double-page splashes, or splash pages in general. So the majority of the book is nothing but splash pages that tell you nothing. It's action, yeah, but for the cost of that book was $1. I could see no problem. If it was a weekly book, fine.
It was $3.
Okay, $3. Yeah,
3 books for a full price.
Yeah, full price, which still isn't too bad. It could be $4, like most of the other books, or $5, which is Marvel's. It seems like they're standard at this point in time. it's just not worth it. Whereas like instead of buying that, instead of buying 2 or 3 issues of that, I could go over here and buy a first volume of Valiant, or whatever from Valiant, and enjoy it for the most part.
Oh yeah, Exo Man of War, Bloodshot, Ninjak,
Exactly.
Eternal Warrior, all that stuff's so good. Those 4.
Good comics, yeah, exactly. For $10, for what it costs for 3-4 DC books or 2 Marvel books,
Yeah.
I could get a trade paperback.
Valiant is quality. I'm not gonna argue that one.
See, that's what's unfortunate about it. A lot of people,
and they don't get a lot of spotlight either, which kind of sucks.
That's what's so unfortunate about it. It's like I was talking to a guy that runs my comic shop, and he was saying if you take the Valiant name off of it and is like Bloodshot
or something like it.
No, he was saying if Bloodshot was an Image book, it would sell more. He'd probably sell 20, 30 individual issues a month. That because for some reason the Valiant name doesn't carry that. Like it puts people off. It kind of puts people, because people remember Valiant, or they have like it feels like a, like that's from what I'm gathering from it. This kind of it puts people on a standoffish a little bit.
Like pre-2012, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Their art and stuff wasn't as high quality as it is now.
Yeah, it's like they're nailed. I mean, every issue, everything I've read of theirs, I have not been disappointed.
Even their comedy books, which aren't like very detailed, like art wise, have been pretty decent. Like Quantum and Woody.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you don't want the
Valiant, but I respect the hell out of them.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I'm the same way. I'm glad they're focusing on stories. They're not just focusing on, it's a perfect merging of written word and illustrated image.
Yeah, there's a balance.
That balance, exactly, because a lot of these books, that's one thing I'm surprised that Bendis preview from Action Comics 1000 wasn't just 4 pages of talking.
Yeah,
that would have been better. To be honest.
You know what? It couldn't have been any worse than the retcon and everything, but close enough.
Oh, that was such a slap in the face.
Yeah, I hate it. If they were to replace the villain with like a souped-up version of Brainiac, that would have worked out perfectly. Like Brainiac, like giving him a cool name like Brainiac Ascended or Brainiac, 1000 or some badass name like that.
Or Superboy Prime or something. I don't know.
Or Brainiac Prime or whatever.
Or honestly, they could have done anything. They could have done. It could have been Atlas, the Jack Kirby character Atlas, which they made him a little bit of a villain back in the day.
They could have done Black Adam. Because let's be honest, Black Adam could beat the shit out of Superman any day of the week.
Did you know that there's another character that it was a character supposed to be in Kingdom Come, and it never happened. I remember seeing this character years ago, sketches from Alex Ross sketchbook. He is the actual first guy that Wizard Shazam gave powers to, but he was so powerful and mean. He was a Egyptian slave, and he was he was given the powers. But he was so mean and angry that he was banished to the far side of the universe. And he had pointy ears. He had like this metal kind of. He was bald, but he had this metal kind of skull cap looking thing.
Oh, so basically he's like the precursor to Black Adam, kind of, because
it was kind of but he had like a kind of the white toga looking thing, like the Egyptian toga looking whatever, the waist wrap.
Yeah.
But. So they've never used the character. I don't know if because the character never saw print. Because I was surprised it wasn't in the bonus material in the Absolute Kingdom Come collection, the hardcover slipcase and everything. But yeah, it was one of those things like that would have been interesting to see this kind of ancient Egyptian Shazam god, whatever his name is. I forgot what the character's name was, but it was like this. I remember seeing the design. And it was kind of cool. Oh, I remember where I saw it. It's actually in. It's Wizard put it out. It was called the Dark Book. Dark Book 98. It was all about villains, and they actually put it in there.
That's pretty sick. I gotta find it.
I believe it's in there. I gotta find my copy if I can find it. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but it was
would have been a lot better than just a totally. I mean, I double checked. This is a first appearance for this guy. This character's never done anything before.
And personally, I think it would have worked better with Brainiac. Basically have Brainiac finish what he started years ago and kill off all the Kryptonians or have them captured.
I agree. Then that wouldn't have had to change the continuity and everything. Would have
And
been
plus, just be honest, Brainiac hasn't really been used that often, aside from the Justice comics. Like the last appearance of Brainiac was like a lesser version of Brainiac 2, and that was in the Hal Jordan Green Lantern Corps, where they have the Yellow Lantern, like the Sinestro Corps and the Green Lantern bottled up.
Honestly, if you wanted to get weird, like me, honestly, I would have gone with something along the lines of this is gonna sound weird, like Pa Kent is the bad guy. Like Pa Kent beating him down. I don't know, or Jor-El, something along those lines, like something weird, like evil Jor-El from a pocket universe or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, they hinted at evil Jor-El in Action Comics, like in one of the storylines, like Mr. I forget his name, Mr. Oz. That was basically evil Jor-El.
Huh. Yeah, stuff like that. I mean, like, I guess a much more blatant and upfront version, though. Like, no, this is Jor-El, but is it the same kind of pocket universe where Zod and Ursa and all those were, and whatever, Zod and his cronies when Superman killed him then with a kryptonite? Yeah, something along those lines or whatever. I mean, they could have done anything other than generic mangy pirate villain, whatever his name is. Like, who cares?
His name isn't memorable. Like a good comic book character, like, it's like Darkseid or something. The name should stick in your mind. You don't have to go and look it up and then still be like, oh, some kind of weird Zar thing. Like,
yeah.
And that's what's unfortunate about the comics. That Marvel has issues with DC as well, because I understand that they're going for marquee writers, creators, artists, and everything like that. And in doing so, you get good stuff, and other times not so much. And I think this is going to be a case where Bendis is one of those guys, and everybody I've talked to agrees on this for the most part, and to a degree. And that if they've given Bendis like Gotham Central or Renee Montoya Question or something like ground level, more cop with a crime, mystery, that kind of book, it would have been a much better fit. But giving him Superman and superheroes, if anybody remembers his takes on superheroes, they're not necessarily, they all end up for the best. They're not that memorable. I mean, like a lot of people, there's certain things they can remember are like when like the Disassembled, Hawkeye dies, or the Mighty Avengers, Brainiac woman, not Brainiac, Ultron, female Ultron, Jocasta, basically. That's it. That's like, and the only reason you remember certain things, like how dare they kill Hawkeye? That's the main reason. That's the way I remember it. And oh yeah, Frank Cho, naked woman coming out of steam. Okay, I remember that.
Yay!
But that's it.
15-year-old self was like, that's probably the only reason I like that particular storyline.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, but when it comes to other stuff like Powers, his creator-owned works, like with the was it Goldfish and Torso and stuff like that, the Mother books, they're much better done because that's his wheelhouse. You start getting into the superhero stuff. As much as people read Ultimate Spider-Man, the book ran for like what, 150 issues or something?
160, I believe.
160. There's only about 40 issues worth of content out of
the the only thing I really liked about that book was the Venom storyline. Like how instead of being an alien, he was a suit created by Pete and Eddie's dad, and I thought it was really good.
Oh, the Venom concept being like it's a cure for cancer.
Yeah, and plus it led into the Ultimate Spider-Man game, which is hands down my favorite Spider-Man game. I would say if the gameplay was better, it would be the best Spider-Man game because the story was so good.
Huh. But see, that's what's unfortunate about that. Like, there's certain things that get close to it. He'll have good ideas like that, and then like just everything else, like nothing really happens in that book. I remember there's a whole issue where Aunt May and Mary Jane's aunt, whatever her name is,
Aunt Marie.
Yeah, I think so. But they were talking. They were just the whole issue of just them two talking about Peter and Mary Jane hooking up. That's it. Yeah. That's the whole issue. That reminded me of that Batman, the Grant Morrison Batman issue, where it was nothing but prose. It was like a Joker prose story, but in comic book form. And I'm like, I'm not buying this. And the guy at the comic store is like, you got it on your pull list. You got to buy it. I said, no, I don't. And I'm like, I'll walk out of the store right now. I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying.
Awesome.
I pay for a comic book, not a prose story. But like it's one of those things. What can you do? But but it's as far as comics in general goes, and then we've kind of been all over the place a little bit. But I don't know if you knew this, but I actually found, because it took me a while to search it, because there was a lot of tags. The first use of Comicsgate on Twitter is actually it's actually it was on March 11th, 2014, and it was Robert Venditti is tagged in it.
Wow.
It was actually talking about, but here's the stuff. It was talking about something about doing the Flash, like a secret project, like a productive day meeting a secret collaborator, Robert Venditti. This is Van Jensen. The guy's name sounds familiar. I think it's one of the guys that works at DC. It's on a secret project, the Flash, at a secret location. Robert Venditti, blab everything. Why don't you? And this guy tags in, this hashtag Comicsgate. Now, funny thing about this is before Gamergate. Gamergate was like later that summer. So this is like it's a joke. It's like it's like this is kind of one of those
basically
things.
because he's basically
like Watergate.
Secrets. That's
like,
all the joke.
Yeah, secrets. Watergate. Instead. So that's the first use of it, which is kind of funny. Robert Venditti is involved. But
the man that brought Exo Man Award to the forefront.
Yeah, but it was like one of those little jokey things. Now it's not so much of a joke anymore. It's people
That's
go
how it
after
goes.
each other.
It starts off as a joke and then it gets super serial.
It's all fun and game. It's all fun and games until Blacklist happen, right?
Yeah. Speaking of going off track, DC and I didn't go off his positives and negatives with DC. I went over mine.
Oh yeah. Look, what do you have any? You don't have to choose negatives if you don't want to, but
yeah, you can choose just positives.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I actually am real positive about the New Age of Heroes books. I like them a lot for the most part. I think it's really cool that they're putting a lot of energy and trying to do something new and maybe pick up some of the slack and take some of the customers from Marvel away. So
basically, that's what they're doing. The Terrifics, Fantastic Four, Damage, the Hulk,
exactly.
Immortal Men, X-Men, Silencer. I'm not sure about Silencer. Maybe Cable.
Yeah,
but
that's kind of a unique one.
Punisher, I'd say kind of like a Punisher was a mother.
Basically,
because she doesn't hold back. She's brutally killing these. He's a villain, but it's it's kind of villain, but for good reasons.
Yeah,
she just want to have a normal life.
She still has her family. Frank, nope.
Exactly.
They're 6 feet under.
So it's DC shouldn't get too dark. That's a problem. Like DC, when they start getting kind of Marvel-y, it doesn't work. It's just like the movies, for example, but whatever.
Can be pretty dark at times.
But the Silencer is close thing I can think to Punisher. I can't think of anything else really. Like as far as like tier characters, because I mean, like outside of the Marvel Max stuff, the Punisher gets jerked arourt. I mean, a lot. People forget that in the '90s, Punisher's getting boring. Hey, Punisher got hurt real bad. Well, we've made him black. Why would you do that? First off,
let's not forget Punisher, like Agent of Heaven or something like that.
Oh God, the Angel, yeah. Like the thing about this, like when they make the retcon, like where they gave him a skin transplant. I'm like, I don't think it works that way. But it's like, first off, who did you kill to get that much skin? Second, like that right there, it's like I'm surprised like Luke Cage they'd say something like, Frank, I'm gonna slap the black off of you. It's like, I mean, that'd be kind of funny. It's like, but like that right there, I was like, that was like really bad editorial and writing decision. Like a writer's like, hey, you must write this. When he was
done fucked up.
He really did. And when they did that Marvel Knights book where he's an angel, he's like a angel of vengeance. He's basically the Spectre with guns. That was just bad. But outside of
basically Heaven's Ghost Rider.
Yeah, it's like. If Chuck Dixon, I don't think Chuck Dixon did that really regrettable where he's like, I'm curious.
Chuck Dixon was doing Nightwing at the time.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, he jumped over to Nightwing, but with
Chuck Dixon write the Punisher for a while.
Yeah, he did Punisher a long time ago. This is like
wow.
he kind of cut his teeth on that.
No way. Before he did
you
Bane?
check that out then. But yeah, it's like as far as Punisher goes, like, I mean, they've made him War Machine, they made him a spaceman, they made him a Frankenstein monster. He can't catch a break. He really can't. But when so as far as the new age hero stuff, at least they're doing something. They're not going in and like taking Superboy and turning it into something different. They're doing or taking these established characters and then twisting them. They're actually just giving them a little breathing room or whatever, which is fine.
I think it's cool.
But
good way to expand things.
Even though that damage design, I hate it. The comic's bad because there's nothing happens in it. But the design, it's just.
It would be kind of cool if they kind of did the reverse for Bruce, like Bruce Banner. Like how Bruce is the good guy and Hulk was the monster. What if they did the reverse? Like the guy, the guy who isn't that, the guy when he's normal, he's the monster, and when he's damaged, he becomes a hero for like at least an hour. That would be cool. The reverse Jekyll and Hyde right there.
That's kind of what they're doing, aren't they? Because there's a voice that talks to him. There's a voice that talks to him when he's in the damaged form.
I have a better idea for that.
But damage just causes destruction,
well,
and the guy doesn't really have a personality to him, to be honest.
Well, I have a better idea. What if the guy, if he's in human form, when he's outside of the damaged form, because the experiment, he is this kind of he's one of those. Like you say, you're making fun of soldiers with PTSD, you're making fun of people with mental instability and this and that, whatever. But like, when he is in his human form, non-superpowered form, he is crazy. He's biting people, he's kicking, he's fighting and everything. And then when he turns into damage, it's like he doesn't want to leave that damage form because he actually has his sanity back. His mind isn't broken.
Yeah, basically, like I was saying, the first Jekyll.
Yeah. So it's like a much more, I guess stripped down version. But it's also like every time they lock him up, put him in a padded cell, he turns into damage and then gets out.
Yeah.
But trying to find a way to become the monster all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's that kind of opposite version of the Hulk where he's always trying to find the cure. He's like, no, I want to be the monster 100%. I don't want to be this crazy man anymore. It's not just
he likes being a hero. He doesn't want to go back to being a loon.
Exactly, and being trapped within it's like he's conscious of what's going on, but he can't control his body.
Yeah,
it's like where he's like living in a pile of trash, and he's like fighting people and cutting them and stuff, and getting locked up. So it's like basically reenact the beginning part of First Blood, where he's in a jail cell and they're spraying him with the hose and everything.
Oh yeah,
and he turns into damage, and he's like, "Guys," they start shooting at him, and he's like, "I don't want to fight you."
That would actually be cool.
That's a comic I'd read. I would actually read that.
I would read that in a heartbeat.
And then,
I like damage, but that would be cool.
It would be kind of like taking a monster trope and turning on his head, like they did with Bill in Marvel. Like this monster-looking horse on crack is actually the hero.
Exactly. Better Ray Bill is a far more interesting character than Thor. I Better Ray Bill like that, especially the kind of the romance that can't happen between him and Lady Sif. It's it's like because it is kind of weird. It's like this verging on bestiality, considering he looks like a horseman.
Yeah, horse on crack, basically.
Yeah, and it's like this kind of. She's like puts her hand on his, and he's like, yeah, we really can't. I'd like to, but I got things I got to do, babe. I'm sorry.
Basically,
kind of a Black Widow and Hulk situation.
But much better done. That was an abomination. That was
Ultron.
Oh god, that was such a bad movie. I remember watching that, and I'm like, why is this the scene where they're taking a break at Hawkeye's house or whatever? And I'm like, why does this seem familiar? I'm like, oh yeah, this is in the '90s Teenage Ninja Turtles movie. This is in the '90s.
Oh yeah.
when Raphael's hurt, and they take refuge in a house in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, in Casey's house, something like that.
April's
April's
family.
Okay.
Yeah, family house. Yeah, okay. It was just so it didn't fit, and then the battling the CGI Ultrons and stuff. And I'm thinking Ultron. I'm thinking they, I am Ultron. I'm the best computer ever. Ha 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 ha. Like the over the top scene chewing villain. But no, they got to go. I'm smart. And the
thing is, Ultron, his personality, he's basically all the negative things of Hank Pym. So basically, since it was Tony Stark that made him, he's supposed to see all the negatives of Tony Stark,
which just makes him just a back talking, like arrogant, and it just makes it boring. It just makes it more annoying than scary or anything.
Yeah.
Like if they just said, like, if Ultron had picked up his he pulled like kind of picked up Quicksilver, and Quicksilver's trying to get out, says, I understand you're trying to phase. I can feel your molecules phasing through this titanium, but when you get to the vibranium core, it's not going to work out so well for you. It's like, it's something along the lines of, like, basically saying, you like to run, try running now, and then breaks his leg and then drops him to the ground. And you don't even have to show the leg breaking, but you can maybe make it sound, or like
just make it more sinister, like in the comic books.
Exactly, like
this
idea.
The Annihilation, like Conquest. That was probably the best version of Ultron.
That's the problem with Marvel. DC has the best villains. Marvel doesn't.
Yeah.
Marvel's villains, they start out as villains and become anti-heroes. Venom. This guy, he's the best Venom take in anything other than the comic.
Spider-Man.
No, actually, I'm torn. The Spider-Man cartoon, the Venom there, where he's terrorizing Spidey, that was really great. Like he's just, because he's like, where is he? And then Eddie Brock shows up, and then Peter throws a punch at Eddie, and Eddie grabs his fist and starts crushing his hand, and then the symbiote encases Eddie at the time.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Peter's creeped and freaked out. But there was that, the Truth in Journalism, that little fan film. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
Oh, I've seen that one, yeah.
Yeah,
that was pretty good, too.
Yeah, it was like straight up. It was like Eddie Brock, going, like, dragging a body over here, stabbing it a couple more times, making it look worse than it actually is. Just being a horrible human being. But it's one of those issues with Marvel. Their villains are not that good. Look at Loki. Loki in the comics is this real son of a bitch. In the movies, all the fangirls love him, and they look what they've done. They've neutered him, and
You're
they've
saying
I mean, DC's kind of doing it too by turning Lex Luthor into a hero, which I didn't like it.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't.
The comic versions are better, though.
Oh, exactly. But you look at Zod Zod in the in Superman, in the first. Well, really, he was in the first two Superman films.
Because the extra scene where he's floating in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah, but before he was in the Phantom Zone, when he's like telling Jor-El, one day you'll kneel before me, you and your children, yes, and like he's making that threat there, and then with Michael Shannon as Zod,
basically the same thing,
but and everybody's like, well, why? And like, I will defend Man of Steel, my dying breath. Well, why didn't they take him out into the desert? Why didn't they take him to the ocean? Well, first off, it's a movie. It would be boring as hell.
You think Zod would let him?
Exactly.
No,
Zod was like, no, I'm going to stay in the city. You're going to have to drag me out there. And even if you do, I'll escape and I'll go to what you love. These people, you love them so much, you're going to have to watch me rip them apart piece by piece. Because that's when the Kryptonian villains, it's not Non. There's actually
just like a big guy that just
Jax Orr. I think his name is Jax.
Yeah.
I think it's Jax Orr. He was actually a Kryptonian scientist. Let's see. I think so.
He was in the Superman animated series. I remember that.
I believe so.
And he was also in Action Comics as well. Jax Orr and Mala. Like that one scene, like when they're going to the different Supermans of the time period, they kind of did a nod to the animated series with those two.
Yeah, you're right. There were so many Easter eggs in the Action Comics 1000. I didn't even catch all of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little Easter eggs. Overall, I thought it was pretty good. It was just that Bendis, man.
Namek. That's the name. Namek. That's the guy.
Okay.
That's the villain.
Like Namek, like Namek?
Yeah, NAM-EK. That was the giant villain, and it's actually, I'm not mistaken, he is actually based off of let me see.
It's funny thing since you said Namek because it reminds me of Dragon Ball because
exactly it. There's actually, I think it says first appearance Man of Steel Friends and Foes.
Oh,
okay. I don't know if that's a comic or something, but I want to say that's actually a wow, that's kind of weird. I thought the character was based off of a pre-existing character. I believe he is, but it was like where he's like he was a scientist who combined his DNA with a with a Rondor or whatever with basically their Kryptonian like kind of rhinos or whatever.
Huh.
But yeah, the idea of this like the giant Kryptonian. But when they killed those pilots of the A-10 Warthogs by popping them like water balloons,
Yep.
like this is what Kryptonians would do.
Yep.
Exactly.
Red paste all over the place.
But yeah, exactly. That's one of those issues with like the Marvel stuff. The villains, that's an issue. DC, they kill it with the villains. And Feora, dear God, like when people say like,
aside from Zod,
except for Zod, yeah. Like even though he was only in that Justice League movie for a tiny bit, Deathstroke, I was like, all right, Brian, I got Deathstroke.
He was a complete photocopy of his appearance in the Arkham games.
Yeah, the Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight. I was like, hopefully Batman just doesn't do a quick time event and not a quick time, just knock him out and throw him in the back of the Batmobile. That's another thing that pissed me off.
About that game, but I love the fight in Origins. My God, I just wish it wasn't the first one. It should have been like the last.
It should have been the last one. But yeah, it's like
or at least second to last.
And that's what's so unfortunate about these villains. Heroes only as good as their villain. Now, Superman has some good villains. Batman has good villains. Flash, good villains. I mean, Spider-Man, he's as much as a villain as himself. He's picking on these people, these mentally deranged people, poor people who are looking to get rich. He's picking on them, whipping on them as he punches them and abuses them.
Yeah. But for the most part, all his villains are like real good. I mean, you can name at least 20 off the bat from Spider-Man.
But as far as visually interesting, he's got some good ones. But then you think about it, a lot of them are kind of lame when you boil it down to it. It's like even though people are like, oh, the Vulture was great, and you're like, what would you rather see, Vulture or Dr. Octopus? It's like Mysterio.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, probably Vulture, because Doc Ock has been overused to death so far. So yeah.
Well, only one movie. That was
Spider-Man 2?
14 years ago.
Well, not the movies. I'm thinking of the comics, but yeah.
Oh yeah. True.
You kind of got to go with the big ones from the comics, though, as far as the movies go, so you can get people who've actually heard of them. That's what I'm worried about, like Blackhawks and stuff. Like that's a cool idea, but freaking no one's heard of Blackhawks other than people like us.
They can always
unless they're fighting Nazis.
Cartoon route and just use Vandal Savage.
Vandal Savage being a villain, like a constant villain, that's one thing. But unless the Blackhawks are fighting Nazis, and even then, it's like, as much as I like the Blackhawks, they don't really work outside the comics. It's one of those things. As creative as I try to be, I don't see them working outside the comics. And
they work well in the cartoon, just not in the comics.
Yeah, they were good in, what was it, Justice League Unlimited?
Yeah, the little cameo. That was fantastic. Then when Sergeant Rock and that was cool too. It's like to see that. I mean, Unknown Soldier would work. I could see the Unknown Soldier as a film, but you'd have to make that kind of R-rated because the brutality of it. The guy's face, he's it's all mangled up, but you wouldn't show it anyway. That would kind of ruin the surprise. But yeah, I think one of the things is Disney probably does tell them to kind of chill out with the, and also maybe with the certain aspects of the villains. Not make it too scary. Make sure, because they're all really, the Marvel movies have that formula. The quippy, pop culture referencey. It's like an episode of The Office. It's like an 2-hour long episode of The Office. You got some serious moments, you got comedy moments, but a lot more jokes than anything else. But that it just gets boring after a while. And I tried watching. Back in last August, I was at the beach. A storm came up, and I had to go back inside or risk getting struck by lightning. And Winter Soldier was on, and I hadn't seen Winter Soldier since seeing it in the theaters. And I was like, whatever, I'll watch it. I couldn't finish watching it because the edits in that film, they are too many edits, especially the fight scenes. That's bad. Yeah. That's a bad directing and bad choreography. When you have to edit. It's especially the opening scene where he's fighting Batroc. Yeah. It's like 50 edits within like 2 minutes. I'm like, okay, no. Because when you're watching I like watching a lot of the martial arts stuff. Like a lot of the the police story, Jackie Chan stuff, little Bruce Lee, whatever. If you watch those, they don't do a lot of edits. They'll do some, but they won't do as many, like the machine gun edits. So they want to show the action, they show it well. But when you're doing these modern movies, they got to edit, keep the action up, pace, and it just it very noticeable to me.
Winter Soldier is really popular, though.
I know that's like one of those things. Like a lot of people love it, and it's like, oh, it's a spy movie. It's like it's not that interesting of a spy movie. It's like it's like Man of Steel works as a science fiction and alien invasion film, and you could take Superman out of it, and you could actually make it. Like some people say, Superman ain't even in it, but you could take Superman out of that film. No mention of Superman, which really is only one mention. It's not even called Superman. It's called Man of Steel. You could take all the name, like you could take Krypton. You could call it whatever, and it would still work as a movie by itself.
Yeah.
And it has a interesting look to it, and like you could tell the difference. Like Snyder, oh, he's horrible, and then you see what Joss Whedon does, and you're like, let's bring back Snyder. At least I was kind of like that a little bit, But I would like to see. But I will say this: at JSA, yes, I'm very much JSA. William Pace, Blackhawks could be an opening for JSA on the big screen. Yes,
just JSA. That'd be cool.
Because JSA is one of those things. Well, honestly, the
it's part of why people are excited about the Terrifics, so we can get the JSA back.
Oh yeah, definitely,
Mr. Terrific.
Yes, I mean, that's the problem with a lot of these. Like at DC, if you look back, there is a comic. There is one of them, The Golden Age. I don't know if you ever read that one. The Paul Smith doing the art, James Robinson writing it. It's basically the story of the JSA.
Right.
It's an Elseworld story. It's basically post World War II, just like around the McCarthy era and everything. And the heroes stuff's not going that well. It's kind of the precursor to stuff like New Frontier.
Oh,
in many ways. It's really good. It's really dark though. It's kind of a little bit. It's a little bit more mystery than anything else. It's got a lot of superhero stuff, a lot of mystery to it as well. I really recommend it. It's really good. But that kind of thing, I think, would work because DC would do that and not pull any punches like they would. Because as much as I love Wonder Woman, I was surprised the fact they didn't kind of gloss over, like make kind of, hey, Wonder Woman's having ice cream for the first time. She's having a great time. And the next scene is soldiers coming back from the front, missing legs and shell shocked and then moaning and pain and suffering.
Yeah.
It's like the wonders and horrors of the world of man. It's like I was surprised. I was really surprised they actually did that. DC could do it. Disney, not so much. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't. It's like, you look at you wouldn't see the world's in danger. You don't see like this. It's like I like the idea. It's like also that the kind of the Kryptonian, the world engine thing when that's destroying Metropolis.
Yeah.
And then people say, it's all that city destruction. It's too much. Superman should be doing this and that. First off, the guy is not. He's only had his powers for maybe a month at this point, like a full-on like flying and everything, kind of understanding what he can do and what he can't do, and never having to fight anybody. He's never thrown a punch in his life because he couldn't. He'd kill someone.
Well, those criticisms too, I think, were coming from people who haven't read comic books. Like, really, collateral damage is what you're complaining about in a comic.
That's like a common thing. Like, if you look at the Brainiac book, there was tons of collateral damage, and that's probably one of my favorite Superman books.
Oh, look at Crisis on Infinite Earths. They don't just destroy the universe; they destroy like every universe.
Yeah.
Worry about a little damage in Metropolis, destroy every Earth there ever was.
Exactly.
They have no perspective on this stuff, and they act like Superman was the one causing the damage. He was
not throwing him into stuff.
Yeah, for real.
Even then, it's like you look at these people in Metropolis. You see a giant alien ship that's been basically said, "Hey, give me this guy, this one of my people, or I'll destroy the Earth." Basically, threatening the Earth.
The military should evacuate every majar populous city near those things.
Exactly, and then it starts coming down. You don't get out of the city, that's your fault. Get in the water and swim. Take a boogie board and go out to sea. You'll be okay. Get out of there by hook or by crook. But
where was Aquaman when we needed him?
there's. I remember watching Man of Steel, and there's a kid saying Aquaman. I'm like, where? What did I miss? Because like, damn it, I missed something. And I actually asked because there's a kid, he's like a 10-year-old kid there, and he's there with his dad. I said, hey, what'd you see Aquaman? Trident. I'm like, oh, that's right, because the word of the day is trident, and whatever. And you see the whales. So the kid says it's Aquaman sent the whales to help Superman.
That makes sense.
And I'm like, you know what, whatever, that's fine. But with the whole thing about it, it's like, this is a guy who's been helping people with what he can. He's never physically fought anybody. He's never really explored his powers other than speed and strength and other stuff like that, but not flight. And
yeah, he just learned how to fly in that very movie.
And the heat vision, like he never used it as
well, he had used it in the past as a
offensive extent. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah, offensive,
because cauterize.
That teacher that he burned her hand, she deserved her hand. Who leaves the classroom and tells all the other kids gather around where she's like the weird kid is in the closet hiding from the world because he can see their skeletons of pulmonary systems.
Hear everything.
That's the weird kid. And that reminded me of Akira. The whole bit where Tetsuo was like, this is a weird kid. His parents left him and all that. And how kind of traumatized Tetsuo was a little bit. You see, Car could have ended up really bad. He could have gone and then everybody's like, well, Pa Kent told him that maybe he should let those kids die. It's like, what next, Clark? There's always going to be, it's like escalation. If you save those kids in front of people, like in the highway thing with the interstate, if he'd have saved, Pa Kent in front of all these, see, like if you watch the movie, you kind of pick up on that. Like it's not really stated explicitly, but people of Smallville know that Clark has powers and he saves people, but they keep their mouths shut. It's a small town. They keep their mouths shut. They don't say nothing. Pete Ross's family don't say nothing. They don't go and blab it on the news to like TMZ or Weekly World News. Local kid saves bus by single-handedly or something like that kind of thing. They keep their mouths shut. But if he was to do that on the interstate in front of a bunch of strangers, and also he would not only just saving and exposing himself, but leaving Martha by her. He's like, you stay with Martha. You won't let nothing bad happen to Martha. And like my time is getting like, hey, I knew what I was doing, getting into, and it sucks. And it's also kind of it's a lesson as well. You can't save everybody. Don't but doesn't mean you can't try. But it's like, but stay with your mother. Don't let nothing bad happen to her. And to look at that film, and then this guy is like a warrior whose planet's been destroyed. The chance for his planet to be reborn is gone. His people are gone. His ship is gone. He has nothing left except ashes of a potential future that's gone. He's like, I'm programmed to defend my home, which means, and now I can't do that. Now I'm frustrated. Now I want to die, and I can't kill myself because I'm pretty sure
that's what you're taking from me, basically.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm pretty sure the Kryptonians wouldn't allow suicide in their in the genetic programming. If they're gonna program you to be a good soldier, they're probably gonna tell the good soldier not to kill themselves.
I bet you're right about that.
Yeah. So it's like, you're going to have to either I kill them or you kill me. And that right there was like one of those things like, don't let me do this. I don't want to kill nobody.
Yeah, it's an ultimatum.
Yeah. And it's like, it's still like, when you think about it, it's like when you're flying at super speed, like where he's battling Zod, he kind of loses track of him. And it's like, imagine you're flying at 1,000 miles an hour and you punching somebody and they just decide to move out of the way. And like, where are they? They can come out of anywhere. And anybody that's still left in Metropolis at that point is fair game. That's the way I look at it. It's like, just screw them. It's kind of unfair, but hey, you start seeing things at that point when this is after this a black hole sucked up a ship, and an airplane. You maybe get out of there. It's like, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go to the countryside. Nobody's gonna bother me out here in the countryside.
Nah, I'm gonna stay and watch this fight.
So, what do you guys think? I might head off here pretty soon.
I think it's a good time to wrap up anyway.
Yeah,
but
sure.
It's quite unfortunate that a lot of these people, there's a tag that apparently the first, I went back and found out the first use of it was it's a Save Comics tag. Comics Purge suggested. I looked back, I was like, I'm pretty sure somebody used that previously. The first time it was being used is somebody talking about saving comics to digital devices, like comic strips. So it's like, so it's kind of positive origin. It's a kind of like, hey, and And the idea behind Save Comics is when you go to a comic store, it's one thing to pick up the books you already pick up, but go into that back issue bin and pick up some comics that are just collecting dust. It's like the movie The Surfing in the Rainbow. It's Bill Pullman in the coffin. I'm not dead. He's banging on the inside of the coffin. And these are comics that are in the back issue bins that could be rescued, that could be enjoyed, that you probably have never read. And if you have read them, you can like, oh, I love this comic. I know somebody that loved it as well, and hand it off to them. And it's kind of like, going into the back issues, it's helping the comic stores as well. And usually their back issues are not as expensive as the books on the shelves, which is really good. Especially if you've got a shop that's they still got cover, like say a cover price for a comic from the 1980s, like $1.50 or $1.25. It's like, which back then was like, oh, how dare they charge that much? And now it's like,
dude, I'd rather take $1.25.
Cheaper than alternative books. But exactly, it's like going in and saving comics, like, and comics will never really die. People are like, oh, they're killing comics. They're killing the industry, and sometimes I think the industry should have died in the 90s because by now it would have been sorted out. But we're in a situation now where they kept on life support, and we got the situation where we have now monopoly when it comes to distribution. Two companies, the health of the industry tied to two companies, both of them.
It sucks. It should have been. It sucks. It shouldn't be tied to two companies. It should be tied to multiple.
It's like if video games were tied to the success of EA and Activision. Imagine if that was the case. All video games.
Video games would be dead in a heartbeat.
Exactly. Nobody wants that. Like a game like a Kingdom Come Deliverance, or Cuphead. That kind of thing would never happen. Wolfenstein, Old Blood and New Order, fine. New Colossus can go shit in its hat. I hated that game.
Perfect, but it's a lot better than most games.
It was cutscene. It was nothing but cutscene. Hey, you're looking for BJ Blazkowicz. You have him. What do? Who do you want me to kill? Kill BJ, you dummy! It's so badly written and so badly done. I complain about this. Like whoever did it, they never seen the only black people they've ever seen have afros. Every black person in the game have afros. How dare they?
Well, it was the 60s, so.
People had shorter hair back then. It wasn't everybody. Oh my God! But other than that, I mean, honestly, think we need a healthier industry. We need to do better, and hopefully, this has been entertaining to some. We've had pretty active chat, and I have a good time talking to both of you too. So both of you. So thank you again for coming on, and to those in the chat, thank you for stopping by. And I guess this will be in for it for now. I think I'll see you all Tuesday night with Mr. Marvel and Mega Gears.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun as well. I'm forgetting somebody off the top of my head. Forgive me, whoever you might be. It's gonna kill me. I'll find out afterwards. But see y'all next time.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
You're welcome.